This is the Louie Tee Network.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie Tee? Welcome to Lockdown Coverage Week number 16 in the National Football League. Atlanta Falcons at the Carolina Panthers. Family business late in the season. You know how it goes. One team vying for a playoff spot, the other playing for pride. You don't know what you're going to get out of both teams in that football game. One thing's for sure, Atlanta Falcons getting ever so close to clinching the NFC South. Another victory and a Bucs loss would do exactly that for them if they could find a way to win on the road against the Panthers, sweep them this season, and give them a chance to put this division away. Pretty much every Falcons fan I talk to, they're just looking to get in the dance. They want to clinch the NFC South, obviously, for various reasons, but they just want to take it to the dance. Getting to 10 wins this season in the NFC pretty much puts you in a position where you're going to get into the postseason, especially with a game remaining on the schedule. So a win here might not clinch the division, depending on what the Buccaneers do later on in the day. But nonetheless, getting to 10 wins gives you a great opportunity to most likely still get in the postseason. And that's what the Falcons are looking to do after having a very strong campaign in the second year under Dan Quinn. And so we'll break this down in a second here, but if you haven't already done so, go ahead and subscribe to Louie Tee Network for more great content. We're changing the game over here. I want you to help us do that by subscribing on YouTube to the Louie Tee Network. Also, I'm on Twitter, @InTheLabRoom is the Twitter handle. Go ahead, follow me on Twitter. And I'm also on Facebook. In the Lab Room is the Facebook page. Go ahead and like that as well. So on my social media platforms, right up above in that screen scrolling across, go ahead, make it happen. Let's break this game down quickly. This was total domination by the Falcons. The score doesn't really indicate just how much this game was dominated by the Falcons. Matt Ryan at one point was 10 of 10 in this football game. He shredded this Panthers defense. Only had 6 incompletions on the afternoon. It's a nice comeback for Julio Jones in this game. Only 4 catches, but they were impactful ones. The running game was dynamic. Tevin Coleman, and I talked about this already, Tevin Coleman with a nice touchdown run. His run was the one that really put an exclamation mark on this win for the Falcons. Just when it seemed like the Panthers might try to claw back, Kelvin Benjamin gets a touchdown. It was Tevin Coleman's run that pushed this game back out of reach and for good. But the combination of Freeman and Coleman on the ground, I think, is the best 1-2 punch around the National Football League. And you won't find a better tandem in the backfield of running backs in this league than Coleman and Freeman when they're healthy, and they delivered again in this football game. And again, Matt Ryan doing his thing through the air, getting everyone involved. I think at one point 8 or 9 different receivers had touched the football. So this was a very dominant performance by the Falcons on the offensive side of the football. But what was even more impressive, and if you're a Falcons fan, you should be even more encouraged by, because we already know this offense can play with the best of them. It's what they did on the defensive side of the football that was impressive in this game. Getting after Cam Newton, he was never comfortable in this game. His numbers showed that and bared that out on the afternoon. He was very errant, wild, and a lot of that had to do with the pressure and the secondary play. I thought the Falcons did a great job in the back half. And when you're getting Jalen Collins to get picks and guys making plays like that, it just makes you feel good as a Falcons fan, knowing that your young guys are starting to come along at a very rapid rate, and you're starting to make those plays that winning teams make this time of the season. As you get into the postseason, you're going to need to generate some turnovers. You're going to need to get stops. Vic Beasley gives you that presence on the edge with 14.5 sacks this season. Now you're getting guys in the secondary to step up. Alford and Jalen Collins and Keanu O'Neal, those guys. Poole with an interception, his first of the season. Guys are starting to come along now and make plays for this Falcons defense, and that has to be a great sign if you're a Falcons fan, that you're starting to put everything together at the right time to possibly make a deep run into the postseason. And now you don't know what's happening in that Tampa game. Right now we're at the half. Tampa's down 13-7 in New Orleans. Pending that outcome, this Falcons team could have a playoff berth and the NFC South clinched by evening's contest. So they could be done with this divisional race and looking for seeding in the Seattle Seahawks. Don't look now, but they're struggling out in the 4 o'clock game versus Arizona, down 14-0 at one point. They were at the 1 yard line last time I checked at the 2-minute warning. They may have gotten in and scored a touchdown and cut that lead, that deficit in half. But in any event, if you're the Falcons, you're scoreboard watching right now, because if the Buccaneers don't get it done, you clinch the division, you're in the postseason, and you win the South. Now it becomes, hey, can we get a first-round bye? And you look up at the Seattle Seahawks and you see them struggling, and nothing's out of the realm of possibility for this Falcons football team. So right now they're sitting pretty after the destruction of the Carolina Panthers for the second time this season, 33-16 in Carolina. As for the Panthers in this game, the exuberance and the excitement of Monday night was short-lived. They came crashing back down to earth. That was the thing that frustrated me when they beat the Redskins, is because I know this team isn't right now the team that we saw from last season. They're still not good defensively. Offensively, they still got issues. And you saw that in this game, and that was what made Monday night so surprising but frustrating if you were a Redskins fan, to see them go out and dominate the way that they did, because this is more of the Panthers team that I've seen this season. This was more of the Panthers team that I was expecting to see on Monday night. But again, this Falcons team, much better than the Redskins. So from that aspect of things, they were able to force the issue, push the envelope. They were able to shut down Jonathan Stewart, who I didn't think got enough touches in this game, but it didn't matter. At the end of the day, Cam Newton was struggling. He couldn't hit the backside of a barn for most of this game. They were after him, and when he did have time, he was still missing guys. So they didn't have what they needed offensively to compete against a high-octane offense like the Atlanta Falcons. And defensively, they didn't get the job done either. And so it was just too much for this Panthers team to be able to overcome in this game. The mistakes, the turnovers, the inability of the offense to sustain offense. And when they had opportunities to put touchdowns on the scoreboard, at one point it was 20-6 because the Panthers simply could not get in the end zone and had to settle for Graham Gano field goals instead of getting in the end zone and making this a contest. And so you saw where this was going. They had life briefly in this game after the KB touchdown in the end zone that was quickly taken away after a big touchdown run given up. And it was an easy one at that. He was almost untouched, was Tevin Coleman, going into the end zone from about 50 yards out. And that's been the story of the Carolina Panthers this season. They're not the same team defensively. They're not the same team offensively. They struggle. And in this game, that's exactly what they did. They lose 33-16, drop to 6-9. Their season was done already. I know they weren't mathematically eliminated. Now they're mathematically eliminated as they drop to 6-9 on the season. Let's get to a couple of your comments. Won't be able to get to all of them, but I will get to some of your comment and knock them out. Weeby says, Falcons, baby. I know it's not the same Carolina team, by the way. Matt Ryan is really looking good and distributing that ball. This is a different team than 2012. By the way, better in my opinion. We a problem. I believe that is in fact the case because I did see an injury. Don't know the status of Andy Levitre. He did go down. I did not see him return. You need this offensive line intact. You need to have all of your horses if you're the Atlanta Falcons. You don't want to see any injuries down the stretch. That being said, this is a different team than 2012 because that 2012 team didn't have anyone that scared you as a pass rusher. The one guy you had was Jonathan Abraham, and he got injured in the final game of the season, I want to say. It wasn't that much of a factor in the postseason. You got a guy with 14.5 sacks now. You've got a secondary that's much better. Your defense was horrible that year, but the offense was so good that you could rely on the offense to get you through. You actually have a little bit of balance now. I think this defense is getting better. I don't know if they're at the point that's a championship level or not, but they're growing, and that's what you have in Atlanta, and you have to be encouraged by that. Revius Jones says Atlanta defense has showed up. It's starting to get better. I'm telling you right now, I don't know how well they'll fare against the upper echelon offenses. Again, remember, they haven't played anyone in almost a month now. Going back San Francisco, L.A., now the Carolina Panthers. They haven't played against a real offense. But what this is doing is it's instilling confidence in that Falcons defense. And that's one thing you can't take away from a team once they get it. It's confidence. And so we'll see what happens when they do have a real offense in front of them. Maybe that will happen next week versus New Orleans. That should be something to keep an eye on. But again, they've been playing some subpar teams and destroying them, and that's what you do to subpar football teams. You put your foot down on their throat and you crush their larynx, and that's what the Falcons have been doing of late. Weebly says, let's go Arizona. LOL, need that second seed. And right now, those boys are showing up for the Falcons as we speak. Bossaholic says, Cards up against Seattle and Saints up at Bucks. What a second half for the Falcons right now. And it could be a great Christmas present. Indeed, we'll see what happens in the second half of those games. Right now, like I said, Arizona was up, and so were the New Orleans Saints. We'll see if those scores hold in the second half. And this will be the last comment I read. This from Darius Rains. He says, it would be alive. I said the Falcons had a great defense, but the secondary played extremely well. Hashtag rise up. Yes, and I talked about that already. The secondary is really coming together. A lot of guys stepping up to the forefront and making plays, and we've seen that over the last 3 weeks. Again, against subpar offenses, mind you, but again, you still have to go out and do these things, and they've done it. And like I said, very encouraging for a Falcons fan out there watching this team. They're growing right before your very eyes on the defensive side of the football, and this is exactly what you need going into the postseason if you're going to have a shot against the likes of the Dallas Cowboys or the Green Bay Packers. If you have to run into them or whomever, you're going to need to play better defense, and that's what you're seeing from this Falcons football team. That's going to do it for your man Louie T here on Lockdown Coverage. Going to catch the second half of these football games. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the Lab Room on Louie Tee Network. It's Lockdown Coverage Week 16 in the National Football League. Remember, we're changing the game one live feed at a time. I will see you a little bit later on. I'll have those other finals for you. Right now, I'm watching Bucks and Saints. Right now, I'm watching Raiders and Colts. I'll give you those breakdowns after those games meet their conclusion. I'll see you a little bit later on. Have a good one.